Hey everybody, Farand Wasiak with the President of IACIS, Shantz. Gene, how you doing today?
Doing good, Waz.
Good. Gene, over the course of 2 weeks, we have conducted you are our 41st interview, so a total of 41 interviews we've done in the last 2 weeks. This conference is represented by 25 countries, and I know alone we've talked to staff from Iceland, Nigeria, Albania, Greece, Canada, and the list goes on. New Zealand, Australia, and the list goes on and on. It was a great conference. It sped by. It was full of a lot of content, but I feel that it sped by. 3 years ago, you were a guest on the podcast, and we talked about the history of IACIS back from the beginning to 2022. How has the last 5 years of IACIS been?
Very good. I've been on the board. I'm starting my 14th year on the board, my 8th year as president, and I've been very fortunate. We've seen good times for the last 5 years and beyond. I'd say that we have been following a 5-year growth plan pretty closely. Although the markets have kind of thrown a monkey wrench in things a little bit. 5 years ago, we were focused primarily on this event here, which was our main event. And then we focused on the European event, which was basically OLAF. It was a privately funded event by OLAF, the European Anti-Fraud Division for the EU. And then a couple years ago, we decided to go and try to put our own event on there. And so in the last 2 years, we have put an event on. We taught the BCFE in Australia, in Melbourne, Australia. We have taught a class in Budapest back in October of this year. And then we just had a class, it was a specialized class in Reno, Nevada, that we put on in January of this year. So we're doing good. We're trying to get out there. These are all completely IACIS events. There's no private money there. It's all putting on what we can sell classes, so on. So that's been good. It's an investment in the organization to try to make this go. We're operating these classes on a thin budget, and right now we have. The state of the world right now is a bit in chaos.
Yes.
Cost of fuel is going through the roof. RAM and computer equipment's going through the roof, and the cost of our laptops have almost doubled, if not more than doubled. And we give laptops away to all our students. Yep. So we have to now start considering how can we trim things up and tighten our belt, so to speak, so we can be more efficient. So we're going to kind of take a little bit of a step back, refocus, regroup, and get more efficient, trim costs, and try to continue. We want to continue the growth. We still really want to be in the European venue, the European market, and we would ultimately like to have another West Coast event. Whether it'll be in Reno or not, we're not sure. The Reno hotel worked great with us. They were wonderful. But we had some issues with travel and some things like that, so it made it a little bit more difficult getting in and getting out of there. And then we would also like to get back over to Asia, Australia or New Zealand, or even somewhere in northern APAC. But yeah, it's been good. It's been a good ride for sure. And I mean, this year our student numbers actually increased. I think I gave you the numbers of 286 for the BCFE, 394 for specialized, and we have 164 staff. But our student count actually went up this year despite being down our count in the BCFE. Yeah. So the BCFE this year and last year, we kind of took a hit from the federal government because of budgeting issues.
Yep.
And so we felt it again this year, but our actual student count came up, not by a significant amount, but by a little bit. So we're still running strong. We're still doing good. There's a need for this. There's a need for IACIS and what we're doing for IACIS. So.
That's good. We talked about obviously this is our flagship event, so our home base for training, if you will. You mentioned when we go abroad, outside the United States, putting on events, you mentioned there's no private funds involved. That means us, the volunteers, are still teaching these classes.
Yes, to answer you, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yes, we have never had anybody but volunteers teach our classes. But what I mean by private funds is that, for example, Olaf hired us in to come in and do it at a fixed price, et cetera. And they took care of the venue and things like that. And we now take care of the venue. We have to find the venue. We have to pay for the hotel. We have to do all that stuff. And it's completely, and then we do our own selling of classes. So where not to get into contract details with what we did with Olaf, but we didn't have to worry about bringing students in. They brought the students in. Here we have to sell the seats, and our success or failure is dependent on how many seats we can sell, right? Because there's obviously a tipping point of when when we're going to break even or hopefully make a little money on it and have it be a positive event. So, and the BCFE is a very difficult class to take on the road.
Sure.
We have it's a 2-week long class. It's 76 hours of training, and the blocks are the blocks have such a variety of topics. It'd be very difficult for just a couple instructors to teach it. And I think we've done our minimum staff to go over to Budapest and Australia, I think, was 14.
Wow.
And that's minimum. That's 14 people breaking up classes. And it's a lot of work because you're prepping for these classes and getting them all ready. So,
and that's 14 instructors for a 2-week course.
For a 2-week course.
So that's a constant leapfrog then, where they might just have one block here or 2 blocks. They have to just keep on teaching multiple blocks.
And in addition, we also do the row coaching. So our instructors also have to be row coaches. So depending on how many students we have, we still want to keep that 6 to 8 to 1, whatever, hopefully it's no more than 6, but we have gone to 8 to 1 in the past. So it's a lot of work. I mean, people think that our staff goes down there, they get to go to Australia, and they go to Australia and they work their butt off.
Right.
And they go to Budapest, and they get to see a few sites here and there, but it's whenever we can find a free moment, because we still put our labs on at night.
Sure.
And you've been to these events. We come here, we start our day at 7:30, and a lot of them don't go home until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night after labs are done and vendor presentations. So it's a lot of work, but we love it. There's a passion for it.
It is. You mentioned that. I've been in Florida for 2 weeks, and you know what I've seen in Florida?
This hallway?
That hallway and that hallway. Beautiful. I keep calling it sunny Florida. Thank God there's skylights and windows, so I'm able to see the sunshine through there. So yes, there are a lot of hours put in. You mentioned that too. We own, not only do we own the land, we own the farm, we sell our own produce. We own everything. It's completely volunteer driven, right? Except for maybe Miss Debbie, right? Yep. And it's all volunteer based. Nobody gets paid. They have to take time out of their schedules, not only to come to this event for 2 weeks out of the year, but when we have the abroad events, they have to make time. Not to mention all the meetings. This doesn't just magic. This event doesn't magically appear. We, maybe take a couple weeks off after this ends, and then you start planning again right after.
The training committee, all of our volunteers on the back end. You have the certification committee getting geared up because people attending this class are going to start certification on June 1st. And then they go through the certification process. The training committee walks away from this, takes lessons learned, and they start going through the books, tweaking the white papers, adding new classes, adding new content, developing new specialized classes. And then all that goes through a QA process, a quality assurance program, to make sure that we're putting out good documentation. I believe, and I may be biased here, but I believe that IACIS's product is the best product in the world. There's no other organization that produces a manual like we produce that is a white paper you can refer back to. Well, you want to know how to go parse shell bags, or you want to know how to go look at a database, you're going to be able to read this documentation and go back and do it, unlike some competitors, which is a slide and a paragraph below or a couple sentences below. So you walk away with tangible property and material you'll be able to use going forward for the rest of your career. And then to do it with 167 volunteers that say, I'm going to give up my time. Some give up their vacation time to come down here and do it. Some agencies allow them to come down on training, et cetera. But to do all volunteer, there's no other organization like this in the world, none whatsoever.
It doesn't hurt that IACIS volunteers consist of industry leaders in our field. right? So, I mean, we have heavy hitters here in this organization.
All of our instructors are practicing forensic examiners. They are not book read. They didn't attend a university class and say, oh, I think I know how to teach this. These guys go back to their office. I say guys broadly, guys and gals, they go back to their office.
And now dogs.
And dogs, yes. We have gone to the dogs. They go back to their office and they go back to work, and they get in there and they start working cell phones. They start working computer cases, child exploitation cases, also known as CSAM. They work fraud cases, homicide cases. A lot of our members and instructors are law enforcement. But we also have a lot of members and instructors that do other things like cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. I currently work in cybersecurity. Our Cypher team works in cybersecurity. Our OSINT instructor, she runs a business teaching this class for money. She volunteers her time to come down and teach it here.
Yep.
Teach it here, and it's just when you look at what the organization has become, it's awe-inspiring.
Sure.
And I'll give you an example. When I came to this class in 2007, there was 160, 180 students. We were at the Sheridan up in Maitland, and I walked in that class and I was blown away. I could not believe how impressive this class was. The instructors were professional. They knew there wasn't a question you could ask them that they didn't have the answer
right.
or go find the answer. And it just really impressed me. And I knew at that point I fell in love with the organization. I wanted to be part of the organization. Never saw myself going where I did, but it was just impressive. The other afternoon I had a conversation with Tom Siebert, who was one of the founding fathers.
Sure. Yep.
And I mentioned this in our membership meeting
yep.
the other night. Tom was telling me how hard it was when he and Mike Anderson and a few of the other founding fathers kind of got together to put this together. They realized if we're going to do this, we got to do it right. So Tom was the energy behind getting us incorporated, getting us nonprofit status,
yep.
and then they started slowly building this thing up. And he said for the first 5 or 6 years, Tom said I was the only one answering the phones. Jeez. He said it was all me. And doing all this work, and then of course the instructors that came to do it. And he goes, I was scared to death this thing was going to go belly up because I was afraid the organization would die. And he said,
right.
we those of us had this passion for this organization. And then when he was done for a while, and he took a break. And we've had one of our awards committee chairman, Richard Johnson, has reached out to him. We're now 36 years old. And Rich set the call up with me and Tom Siebert, and Tom told me, he says, I'm impressed. And then I was told the other night that Tom was on and listened to the Spirit of IACIS
yep.
award presentation and to the membership presentation. He sent Rich a nice message, and he said, I can't believe what my legacy has become. Because this is his legacy.
Sure.
And I told him, I said, I'm just a guy here doing what we can do to keep this thing moving and keep it
right.
going. I said, you did the heavy work. You are the giant whose shoulders we stand on. And I said, what's really impressive to me is that these guys, these early days, these guys are the guys that built the process and procedures and the foundation of what is computer forensics today that's being taught by our competitors, that's being taught
yes.
in universities, that's being taught as forensic best practices. Now, obviously, it's morphed and grown and evolved over time as different technologies come in, but those same core principles are there. And so I think Tom was very proud to hear that what he built is a legacy that he will always have in his hip pocket, and he can pass on down to his kids and say, your dad did this.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really neat legacy. And now, for me, my legacy is don't break it.
Don't break it.
He
right.
got it here. Let's don't break it.
Right.
Let's keep it going. So, but that's where we are. And I think the organization's good. We're strong. We need the world to calm down a little bit. We
sure.
need gas prices to come
yep.
back to normal. So President Trump, if you're listening, get the prices down. And we need the cost of computer parts and stuff, because we're trying to give people the tools that they need to take back to their lab so they can get certified.
Yes.
So we give
yes.
away hundreds of thousands of dollars in softwares donated by our vendors, and we couldn't do this without the vendors. The vendors give away full forensic suites. They give away 6 to 8 month software licenses so the students can do this. We give them the laptop. They go home and they don't have to worry about being at work, doing it at their work computer, or
right.
finding a computer that has the horsepower to do it. They have what they need and get certified. And so we try to give that to them. That may have to go away in the future if costs don't come down, because we can't continue to offer the class at the prices we are and still absorb that. It would be very difficult. So the board's trying to, like I said, we're kind of taking a step back. We're trying to be cautious. When I didn't realize that the cost of laptops had doubled until just this year. And then, I don't know, just a few months ago, they had announced that a lot of the memory manufacturers, the RAM manufacturers, are switching their process for it's either GPU or some kind of AI stuff, and they're not making memory for computers anymore. So the cost of RAM has gone through the roof, literally thousands of dollars.
And it happened overnight. At my agency, we ordered some forensic machines. Maybe a month later, we had to order more. The price actually doubled. There was an actual, and we thought it was some sort of error, because we were like, "There's no way in a month or two these prices double," and they absolutely did double. So.
Well, and keep in mind too, we forecast out 2 to 3 years ahead, right? We just signed our contract with the Carib for 2028, so we'll be here again next year, 2027 and 2028. We got our dates locked in for 2029, and I just locked in for 2030. So those contracts still have to be negotiated, but we're projecting to be in here for until the end of the decade. And then we have our class coming up we have another class coming up in Budapest. So Europeans, if you're watching this, tell your friends we're doing a BCFE class in Budapest in October. I can't remember the dates, October 6th or something like that, I think, but it's on the website. And we really want to see that be successful. We want to bring this to you guys and make that successful. And we give you the laptop over there as well this year. That may change next year, but we really want to see. And we're talking about maybe the following year, also bringing Cypher or another specialized class over with the BCFE if we can get the numbers. So there's definitely plans for growth, but we have to forecast out, and it's really difficult to forecast out like that when prices are fluxing so much.
It's so volatile out there.
It's very volatile, very volatile. And the only reason we can do our event here at the low numbers that we are doing is because we have the large volume of students. We can get things cheaper on bulk and things like that. Those smaller events are a little bit more difficult because we're only doing 30, 50, 60 students or so.
Yeah.
So, but I'm very pleased. I couldn't be prouder to represent the organization as the president. I'm immensely proud of our volunteers. Everyone's professional. There's nobody out here that causes problems or ruckuses, and they're not down here having a party. They're down here working their tail off.
Yes, they are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yes, you are. And so.
Anything else, Mr. President, before we wrap this up?
Nope, I'm happy to be the last one. I'd like to think you're saving the best for last. But,
you saw our big picture plan, yes,
yes
sir. You read right through us.
No, it's great, and I know this is the first time you've done this here. As many as you've done. Let me rephrase that. Where you're actually getting in and you're talking to students and that.
Yes.
I love it. I think that is absolutely a really neat opportunity to let these guys get their face out there, because I'm old hat. These guys are the future. The students are the future. Our staff are the future. And so I love what you guys have been doing this year specifically. And I know we've been doing podcasts for a while, but this year I've seen it taken to a whole new level. And I think that's great.
Yeah, we did, with students, focused on our international staff, some of our domestic staff, and we also showcased our behind the scenes people. The guys who are always behind, the guys who get here before us, the guys who leave after us, and they do everything in between. And
some would argue that they're behind the scenes and they're not important, but they are sometimes the most important.
Absolutely.
We've got the operations team that they're responsible for all the setup and making sure everything's brought from storage and brought over here, and coordinating and engineering. Chris Brett sets up all the rooms electronically to make sure we got the right count and all that. And then you got our certification team, which we have 700 coaches that do peer review, and those guys work tirelessly through the year. They don't get seen. They don't get on camera. No. Many of them come down here, but they are every bit as important to this organization as myself or anyone else, because without each one of these volunteers, we can't do what we do, and do it year over year over year.
Multiple times within a year too. So
that's right. And hopefully we can do more and more and more, but we got to get the world to quit being crazy, Trump. Come on.
One president's plea to another president. Gene Shantz, great to have you on.
Absolutely. Thank
Gene
you,
Shantz, President of IACIS. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Yep.